Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, I started recording because I feel like these conversations are the best representation of us as a congregation, and friends, the congregation. And so,
Okay, what happened there? All of a sudden, Michael, we lost you. We're not hearing you.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Part of it.
Oh, you're
Kind of there, sort of.
I think.
Ah,
Nope, I hear a tractor. Oh, Corbin's doing the tractor. Nothing.
okay, what about now?
yay!
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I don't know what happened there, but like I said, I feel like these conversations are the best representation of us as a community. So if people are interested in the community, they could watch these videos.
Well, I think it might grow once we make it easy to get into these.
Agreed.
So I look forward to it now.
Oh,
so
good. Yeah.
and I took notes.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, since you took notes, maybe you could start us off.
Well, one of the first things that she said was to change how we think, and change how the paradigm is shifting, and it's our catalyst, and this is making us change how we think, whether we like it or not.
Right.
And it's better to think of moving forward rather than trying to get back to the. And I think that's very valid, very valuable too, to remember.
Well, and Lillian is back with Lillian and JC are back with us.
Yes.
So,
You're still garbly.
Yeah, I hope. I wonder if it's the internet connection.
Try every time we try different servers.
I wonder if in the meantime, are you on a computer?
Yes.
I wonder if
working on an iPad, if you think that would be better.
That could work. Or I was going to say, alternatively, you could type your thoughts into the chat. If no typing. Okay. All right. Not a problem. Well. Well, I'm sorry. That sounded like a question. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sounds like a really bad connection. Something's not connected right.
It's looks like they're going to try again.
Now they're gone again.
Okay. All right. So picking up with what you were saying, it's that it's the idea, to me, it's the idea of like, what are we willing to leave behind? You know, what are we?
Certainly.
Yeah. In order to move forward. And, you know, you have to do that in your personal life too. You have to let go of maybe connections or memories or, you know, things that maybe you learn to think defined you.
Well, you know? I don't want to turn it all about me, but I've just been through a major paradigm shift, and I know you have too.
Oh yeah.
And so what do? In my world, I had, when I knew that this was going to happen, I had probably about 4 or 5 different plans on how I was going to find a home that I can afford and move out and move a piano and and an aquarium.
Kim knows nothing about that.
It was a matter of setting up. Okay, here's plan A, here's plan B, pros and cons. It was almost analytical, which isn't even me. I have an artist brain.
Yeah.
But it was something that I knew I better do, or I'm just going to be broken completely.
And who has time for plans?
Well, I didn't really, but you know, it's a had to, you know, it was a had to. I had to move, and quickly.
Yeah.
because John and I are not a couple anymore. For those of you that
Yeah.
didn't, yeah. So
Kind of gathered.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, it was it was a horrible time, and I did fortunately have some amazing friends and family, and just a spiritual belief. But the rapid rebound thing, I think I'm doing pretty well in coming back to it.
Well, you're here.
Completely disrupted move. At one time I did one of these, and the room was full of boxes back here.
Yeah.
So it looked like a warehouse. Things are getting better. Anyway,
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And yeah, I agree with Kim. You're here. So
yes,
Yeah, you're
that's
here.
what matters. Yeah.
very, and so are you. So
Yes.
we're all,
No, that's
yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Linda, did you get to see the sermon yet, or
Yeah, I watched it this morning.
what? Any
Uh,
thoughts?
Well, in my own personal life, first off, I'm an introvert, and so I kind of enjoy being by myself. And I took in like a guy who was going to be homeless in January, not knowing that the pandemic was coming. And of course, I couldn't toss him out. And he was an essential worker, so he was going out in the midst of all the stuff. And I got sick, really sick in March. So I think I had it, but no testing, so I don't know for sure. But the good thing for me has been not having to do things I don't really want to do, which allows me to actually do the things I do want to do, and finding joy in things that I haven't done for a long time, feeling motivated to actually clean up some of my boxes I've had for years and years and years. And it seems strange to me to be finding such joy when chaos is everywhere.
Wow. So did you seek out that joy, or is it something that just kind of came to you?
It came to me as things stopped. I
Hmm.
mean, I was working as a legislative assistant clear up to March 13th, and I put myself into quarantine on the 16th after a weekend of getting supplies. That last Costco run may have been where I picked up whatever I had. Who knows? And so I went from, and of course, the legislative session was kind of a bust anyway, but I have been going there either as a volunteer or as paid since 2016.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden I couldn't do it, and I'm finding out that I mean, I'm still an officer, like in the Polk County Democrats, and there's some things I still have to do, but I because I was coming to Roseburg, it was a Zoom meeting, but I still just kind of kicked that aside and drove to Roseburg.
Hmm.
And I'm finding that at the same time, the Zoom meetings allow me to do things that right now I couldn't do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a meditation group I attend on Wednesdays. And while it's very different, doing the Zoom, there's still a connection and community that I'm enjoying, and I don't have to go anywhere. And I'm just realizing that I don't have to use gas. I don't have to use time. So there's money and there's time that's freed up in ways that I wouldn't have anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that we discussed a lot, is that there is a positive side to doing things this way. We've been joined by Lucy and back with Laleen and JC. So you want
I believe we have good sound now.
There you go.
great
Yay.
sound. So I don't know what's key. I talked to Donna about 20 minutes before we started the meeting, and she has all the information. So I'm not sure what she's experiencing on her end. But I thought we'd just have a conversation, and I check in with her periodically. So, Lucy or Laleen or JC, did you have any thoughts on the service?
No, just a few.
Just a few.
I realized that the way I like to communicate with people is appropriate for now. So when I think of being accosted in a grocery store by someone who is not wearing a mask because all the reasons this person thinks, you know, it's a silly thing, I find myself really, well, I guess I learned as a teacher, you have to start where the student is, or you've wasted your time. So I have things that I can say to them that don't express my point of view, but they ask questions about his or hers. So, because I really, really back what Donna said. We are not going back to normal, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found the service really timely in terms of the topic. The part that touched me really deeply, and I wanted more of and more time to spend with, was actually Donna's meditation.
Ah.
I mean, she really tapped on, there's so many ways that all of us, I believe, really would like to see our world change. And I know for me, it's kind of like the song Imagine.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, some people react to a meditation or a song like that with, you know, wishfulness or prayer or helplessness. You know, we'll never get there kind of helplessness. And I always find myself reacting differently. My way to respond is my head fills with all kinds of ideas and possibilities that could be put into action to move me and my immediate surroundings along. You know, not huge jumps and leaps, but along. And so I found that her meditation fits so beautifully into the series that I'm trying to work on, white privilege and racism. And I really want to use that very early in the series because I believe it has more of a positive note than it does a fear or scary note. And her language and presentation for me, you know, was so to the heart that I think a lot, oh, well, there you
The
are.
woman of the
You're
hour.
just watching.
Hey,
Hi,
There
Lola.
she is.
Yeah. So
I
Donna,
am
we
Well,
talking about your meditation.
yeah. So Donna, we've been talking about you for a while.
Oh.
I'm going to turn the floor
Shall
over.
I leave the room?
Yeah. No. I'm going to turn the floor over to Donna, but before I do, we were just talking about your meditation, Donna, and I had an idea because I was also very moved by it, and I had an idea. I have been enjoying writing music to underscore the meditations and things like that. Would anybody be interested in a small series of short audio meditations
yes.
done by Donna, but you know, with music from me? Would that be interesting?
I would love that. In
I
fact,
would love
I
to
had,
do that
yeah,
too.
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
was
would
going to go
love
back
that
to that.
too.
yeah.
And Donna, you missed my whole discussion about how deeply touched I was by your meditation today. And I'll do that with you privately, but Michael, would you be willing to start with that one?
Yeah. Well, it
Well,
would be.
I'm going to go back to it.
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be easy to just slice that, but Donna, maybe next time we do a service, if you have just like an extra 20 minutes, we could do like 2 meditations or something where you're just where you just read it. It's just a thought that I thought would be kind of cool because everybody really likes those. So
Wonderful.
yeah,
I got tons of meditations I
yeah,
do.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
I would love that.
And the music was wonderful
oh, thank you.
with it.
Yes, it was.
Thanks,
Yes,
thanks.
I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, cool. Okay, so here's what I would like to do. If we
Turn that off.
have questions directly for Donna, and what? So I'll mute and unmute people, but that way, whoever's asking Donna a question, there could be like a back and forth a little bit between the two of you. Is that cool? All right. Did everybody hear me?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's cool.
Okay.
Do we
Okay.
raise our hand or what?
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Let's see, and I'm going to now unmute Donna. Okay. Great. So who wants to go first? Hands up. I'm not seeing hands.
I'm here.
Is that a hand, Lucy, or are you scratching? Okay, well, maybe I can go first. Okay, so one of the things, especially with the Greg Braden quotes, is this idea that we have to move forward. And to me, because the future is so uncertain, to me, the future really represents a state of chaos because it seems like anything can happen in the future, right? And I wonder how much of moving forward that people are trapped in fear because they're afraid of the chaos. Do you have any advice for like how you gird your loins, basically, in order to march forward into progress, into the future?
Yes, I think one of the things that are happening to people today are that they are in so much fear that, how do I say this, they can't think clearly because the fear is actually controlling them. And so when the fear is controlling you, then how can you act responsibly? And so I think one of the major problems is people don't understand that they're in fear. It's been such a natural thing that they don't even understand that they're being controlled by fear. So that's why I talk about it so much, because until we wake up and realize, okay, we do have the power to choose fear. We have the power to choose, I call it love, responsibility, awareness, all of that comes with love. Until they understand they have that choice, it's like they're caught in an eddy, and they can't get out. So somebody has to say, hey, here's a here's a, what are those called, a life support thing that we can pull you out and help you to see what's really going on. Because I think once you're in that eddy, it's even hard to understand what's happening. So that's why I think it's so important that we all work together and help each other move from that fear. And that is my whole purpose, and everything I talk about is, okay, let's move from the fear so that we can actually take back the amazing power that we do have. It is amazing if you could just, realize it. And I know a lot of you do it, especially at certain times. It's like, whoa, that worked great, and I feel good. We need to get into that kind of awareness. And that's kind of, that attaches to the resilience that I was talking about. How can we be resilient if we're in fear? And our whole world today is divided, really divided. In fact, almost a clear division, fear or love. And the fear is, of course, acting out as the violence and, all those things, the refusal to, take this COVID virus and handle it responsibly. It's like an avoidance or yeah, just an avoidance, I guess is the word. So, yeah, I think it's a matter of helping each of us understand our power. So that's
Okay, beautiful. Laline had her hand up. Laline, it looks like you are muted on your end. Oh, there
there
you
you
go.
are.
Thank you. Michael, thank you for asking that question because it was a perfect lead into a little bit of what I had said earlier. Donna,
Yes.
you know, I think in some ways, I feel better prepared because of all the discussions that you have done around fear, both in your sermons and in the Course of Miracles, to understand so clearly that division between love and fear. Also, I remember in my work with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she pared emotions down to two, love and fear. And she said that a child is born with basically the capacity to love. And then the first emotion really that emerges is fear, fear of falling, fear of not being held securely, possibly fear of not being fed on time, you know, those really basic sort of fears, and that we all develop from that. So having said that, the part that you missed of what I said earlier that I really wanted to say to you is that for me, your meditation was so perfect because in a very gentle, imagining way, you kind of led us on a pathway of how fear could change if we could imagine, if we could believe, if we could move toward each of the things that you mentioned in the meditation. And it just so beautifully came together that what I was saying earlier, besides, you know, praising you to the high hill as I always do, is that I love your work. And it was so timely and so right on, and thank you. And Lucy, the piece you missed was I love those graphics. They were just incredible. Yeah. And Michael, editing.
Black spot.
I do want to say one thing. It's okay to experience fear. Okay, and that's going to come up. You know, just like last night when all of the fireworks were going out, I had a moment of fear. I hope that they're safe and they don't start a fire. You know, those things are okay because that fear is alerting us to something that perhaps we need to pay attention to. So it's not that you should always be in love, because that fear is actually a very good asset to show you that something needs our attention. And but the thing that we need to be really aware of is that we don't stay there. You know, that we say, okay, I do have a fearful feeling about this. Now, what am I going to do about it? And what am I going to do about it from that power source that I have within me that, you know, is going to help me respond instead of react. So I just wanted to say that too, because fear is actually kind of an asset, as long as we don't get stuck in it. So thank you.
Yeah, valuable. Any other? Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, I just muted Louise. Let me. So JC had something to say. Okay.
I guess what I'm thinking about now as I'm watching the news and things, a really powerful things are happening that go deep in us, and it's the pulling down of the statues, the changing of the names, the trying to erase all concepts that people who aren't white are prey, that you can get them because they deserve to be got. And when we can when we get people to realize that people who did good things also did not honor people who were different, then we're ready to take some of the steps that Donna is suggesting that we can. And I can feel people having to unravel their set attitudes that show up when somebody calls the cops because somebody's going into their condo, and even though they have a key, they're saying they don't belong there because in their mind, that's not the right place for a Black person. And that's so deep in people that I think we need to take it seriously, because those people are going to need some helpful help, not castigation and separation. They really believe that. And so they don't hear anything else. So I guess what I'm saying is, I see that doorway into the future opening. And in order to help people come through it, we can't get them back for all they've done. We have to be willing to help them see how they are safe coming through that particular door to the future. So that's my thought on that.
Yes, yes. And I think each of us in our own ways, every day, everything that we choose is really, really important. And so when we help bring that awareness, of the value of all life forward, that we are really truly helping. Our history, and I do believe everybody did the best they could in the moment, because we were taught about competition. We were taught about, survival of the fittest. And that's what people's environment was. And, to blame them is not going to help. But to change that now is where our power is. And, I understand them tearing down statues and everything because they're in anger and they want to change things. And, that is a reaction that maybe will help them feel better for a little time, for a little while. But in the end, it's not going to be the answer, of course. We know that. So that's why it's so important to continue to be resilient in our beliefs of, the value of all life and everything. That's how we're going to help. There's nothing we can really do about what people are doing right now except sending that energy into the world. And I truly believe that energy going out into the world will touch a lot of hearts, and it will change. The changes in some of those kind of beliefs are going to be slow because, they grew up with it, they were taught that, and making that big change and changing that paradigm is something that's really, really hard with people who have only had one basic belief. It's like they've been taught that this is right, this is, this is it. So for them to admit that maybe that's not right is hard. It's sometimes it's hard for me in some things, so we just have to be very strong in sending out the right messages. And I just think that all of this, in our history, it seems like anytime we have these big changes, it's like a pendulum. It goes way over here, and then it swings back way over here, and, it's just major violences, whatever. Eventually, as that pendulum comes back, it will rest in the center and we'll come back to balance. And right now, I think our pendulums are really, flowing back and forth really hard. But to hold those visions that, yes, we can come back into balance. And, we're going to have some pain and suffering, because the consciousness level hasn't risen collectively yet enough to avoid that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean we should stop working for that and seeing that, because that's where our power is, and that's how the change will happen. It's certainly not going to happen by, degrading others and doing this. That's not part of it, because then we're doing exactly what they're doing. We need to stand in our belief of that love and the power that we can help everyone. Because all of those people, as the Course in Miracles teaches us, all attack is a call for love. They are truly lost in fear. And so our part is to extend that love and that that energy that will help them, instead of degrade them and make them feel worse, because that's not going to help them at all. So
yeah, beautiful. Okay, so Tim, got any, or yeah, got anything to say?
guys, I was like, see all you.
Yeah, so if you do, yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself. Oh, okay. All right, let's see. Linda wants to let me there you are. Okay, yeah, you're unmuted.
Okay. I think it's really difficult for people to change, and I think my fear came because I was around a lot of millennials who were who were saying before this hit that the world would be a better place when all the baby boomers were dead. And so all of a sudden, when on the horizon, it looked like that might come true. That was my fear, and part of the reason I'm so happy is because I actually got sick right away and I survived. But the other thing is most of the older people that I know are situated well enough that they don't have to worry about having a job. They have retirement income set up. They have a place to live. Not everybody, but most of the ones I know, and that tends to change your viewpoint somewhat. And it's really, I don't know how to change the viewpoint of the younger ones, because I think a lot differently now, I think, than I did when I was younger, although I never, did that. I was really surprised when I went to Fred Meyer's yesterday in Roseburg, and everybody I saw had masks on, and even the kids, and they don't have to. And I've been not going to Fred Meyer's in anywhere in Salem or in Portland because they weren't wearing them. And the mindset, we have these ideas about what people are like in different places, what people think of Southern Oregon, and it's not true. There are lots of people. I mean, I grew up here, and I grew up in a household who believes pretty much what I believe now. But I'm really disconcerted by trying to figure out any way at all to change points of view, because right now most people are really stuck with their point of view. I mean, we're pretty stuck on ours, and I don't know what to do about that. I mean, I sold a car to another homeless guy who I've been letting him keep the car in my carport. And on the side of his car, now that used to be my car for 23 years, there's a banner that says, "Distance your socialism." And it's really hard for me to see my old car with that message on it.
Yeah.
But, especially since I gave it to him for $100,
Yeah.
Okay, so I know Laleen had something to say, but we haven't heard from Glennis yet. Is that okay if we? Yeah. Okay. All right. So here we go.
Can I respond to Linda?
Oh yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. We really can't change anybody because they have to make their changes. They have to make their own changes within their hearts and their minds. So, to try to change someone is really an exercise in futility. However, what's really important is to be yourself, that change you want to see. Well, like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see, because your example is going to be that powerful avenue for people to see, how things can be different. But to try to change someone is just not going to work. It is about coming together, the community, I'm talking community here now, coming together as a community and saying, this is our community. And then those that don't believe that will either join this and see it differently, or they're not. And that's really not in our control at all, nor should it be. They have to make their own choices. However, when we make our choices that are based on, the love and the compassion and the, the honoring of all life, that's where we're going to make the impact. It's not going to be by changing others, because it just doesn't work that way. I mean, we might make them do something like we want them to do, but they still haven't changed their hearts and, their ideas about it. They're being forced. So that's not a change. So it's a matter of just being that change that we want to see in the world.
Okay.
Well, you actually responded in part exactly what I was going to say. I would only add that when you do talk to people because I have several very good friends who believe oppositely from the way I believe, and I believe that their ideas are harmful, but it's not for me to change them, and I realize that. So what I do, and I found that it has worked quite a bit, is I respect you. I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with you, but you don't agree with me. I still love you because we can play music together, or whatever, whatever the connection is.
Exactly.
And so you recognize the connection between you and understanding, okay, yeah, they're thinking differently and you're not going to change their mind. Modeling exactly what you are saying it does work. And I would just only add that you convey somehow that you do respect this person and respect their point of view. Just because you don't agree doesn't mean that they're evil,
Yes.
And that's the only thing I would add to that.
Very well said. Thank you, Glynis. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Lillian has something. Let me.
I'm really liking this, you guys.
Me too. Yeah.
And gals.
I guess I want to talk a little bit about classism and economic differences. I try to envision and see my way through change and keep coming up through some realities that I know, even from my own personal experience, are as real as anything on earth could be. And that is that education and skill and IQ make such a huge difference in how we are able to live our lives, how we see our lives, and how we make choices in our lives. And I come from a couple of unique positions, one having been among the poorest of the poor as a child and the first of 25 families to move into a 500 family government housing project on welfare, to being comfortable today. And I remember the exact moment when my thinking changed. I was working on rewriting a consciousness raising group for Now with a couple of other women. We were locked up at a Portland motel for a week so we could do that. And the woman who was then vice president of Now, said something to me about finances, and I hadn't a clue. I knew absolutely nothing. And at that point, I had a college education, but I knew nothing about how to buy a house or finances or anything else. And so I reflected back on a study that I was asked to do after I graduated and was working in the Regional Research Institute. And the federal government wanted to know the answer to who is really on our welfare rolls? Who are the poorest of the poor in the United States? And my background, of course, I got chosen for that project. And it was basically what I believed and knew from my own experience, but to see it in the numbers, in the hundreds of thousands and then into the millions was almost unnerving. And when we look at the coronavirus and we see who's being most hit, and we look at the living circumstances of where people live and the number of people living within 2 or 3 rooms. I mean, I grew up in a bedroom with 3 kids, a little tiny, teeny bedroom. That's what we had. My mother slept in the living room before we moved into the housing project. You can't run away from viruses in situations like that. And when I graduated college, my mother was still earning $300 a month as a secretary, and my first monthly salary was $1,000 a month. And she was a highly skilled. And so we can't ignore everyone working on those front lines, picking our food and opening our doors and driving our vehicles and so as I look at ways in which we change and I think about privilege, I think part of white privilege, and I don't mean it to just only be white, but it is certainly predominantly white, is that we have to look at the privilege that is given to us by our station. First of all, being white. And secondly, by the access that we may or may not have had, or the push or the emphasis or the mentoring or whatever it was that got us to go as far as we could with whatever talent or education or intelligence or skills or resources, that we have, that's pushed us out of poverty, out of lower class, out of welfare class, which are all very real classes, and into being one of the others by those who can't say right now, I can survive through the coronavirus. And then the other thing that I see right now is that so many people are being thrown into a level of poverty that they never even imagined, because suddenly they don't have the savings and their jobs aren't going to continue and the unemployment stimulus is going to run out and there's not enough savings. And so I come back to, the whole idea of if we can move to a different paradigm, if we can make change, how do we start on social ills, social problems that are as huge and vast as they are? Well, I don't have answers.
Oh, I'm not so sure I have answers, but I do believe it's that changing our thinking. And in A Course in Miracles, they teach that our thinking is upside down. So what does that mean? Okay, and if you start thinking about that, which I've done a lot, it means changing your thoughts about all kinds of things. We have developed this society of classes. We did it. So how are we going to undo it? It's a big problem because we don't, how many billion of people do we have now? Is it 7, 8, 9? I can't You know, I can't remember right now, but it is a world consciousness that we have to work on. I mean, we can maybe change something here in the United States, but you go to Africa and everything that everybody does, as I was saying in my Sunday message, affects everything else. So we can't just isolate ourselves anymore. We have to look at all of these different things that we have identified as classes or whatever. And to get to the point where we truly value all human life, this problem is going to stay with us. We have to change our thinking. And it's going to be a process, a major process. One thing I think that I believe is happening, I've even talked to you about before, you know, is the fact that Mother Earth is raising her vibration to the point where it's going to get to where the lower vibrations can't even survive. So she's kind of helping us raise our vibration, which, you know, again, is a slow process and everything. But, you know, again, we have to just do our very best, and that is very powerful from the individual level. And to understand that these changes might take us a while, probably not in our lifetime, but at least we're going to be an impetus to get that going, you know. But I think the lack of value of life is a major problem on this planet. It's a major problem, and that has to change. That we have to reverse that changing, reverse that thought, and and just do our very best individually to express that. Because I truly, this energy that we're expressing is very powerful, and I don't know if people understand that, but every time you do something from love, you have really expressed a miracle, because anything that comes from love is a miracle, and boy, do we need miracles. So, you know, from just giving your neighbor something to eat if they're hungry, I mean, those, what we say are little things, are big things. They're huge things, and they do help everything. So yeah, it can be overwhelming, Lillian, I know. It can be depressing sometimes, but we have to go back to who we are and to choose what we know is going to help. You know, being depressed about it's not going to help. It's not going to help anything. Not that we ignore that. If you're feeling depressed, feel depressed, but then, you know, realize, okay, how am I going to get out of this? Because I don't want to be here. See, that's the part that's real important. It's not ignoring that you might be feeling depressed. That's not going to help either. And just like I said, you know, feeling of fear is fine. Just don't get stuck in it. And we all know, I mean, this consciousness here, and in fact, in our UUU community, we know these things, and we help each other through them. And that's real important part of that is community. That is really the key. We have to have our community, and it has to be based on helping each other. And then we can move that through, you know, our state, or, you know, then globally, and that's where we're powerful. Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? I was having trouble with my audio before. Okay, cool. Great. So the only people that we haven't heard from are Lucy and Kim. Do either of you have any thoughts you might want to share? Yeah? Okay. So maybe just open the floor to general thoughts. One thing that what you said, Donna, that really made my ears perk up is that there's been a trend of just devaluing life in general, you know, and you know, it's something that Linda said, you know, about like that millennials would joke about, you know, like maybe this would kill off the boomers, you know, idea that there's an element of humor, you know, and I'm somebody who loves gallows humor. I love dark humor, but it's something that people can say in jest, and yet, you know, that there's this idea that a segment of the population is just useless, or they're holding us back, right? I think is the mentality. And if they were just gone, then our lives would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
I don't either. And think about it. If they're gone, what does that mean? You're
Yeah.
going to find something else that needs to be gone, you know, because you're coming from that fear-based thinking.
Yeah.
You know, well, let's get rid of the baby boomers.
Yep.
And what about the what are they called? The X generation?
Yeah, Gen X, that's me.
Gen X.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you. So now we don't like what the Gen X's are doing, so let's get rid of them. I mean,
Right.
it's just that circle of fear. Like I was saying, it's like an eddy. You can't get out of it, and it'll continue.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, individually, you know, I think, oh, if I get a new computer, I'm going to be so happy. The computer doesn't make me happy. I have to decide to be happy, you know, and that's, you know, that's the difference, because something outside of you is not going to make you happy, but that is what the basic thinking is. So we got to get rid of these people that are pains in our necks because they don't work, they don't do this, and if they succeed in doing that, they're going to find it again, because that's their perception, that's how they're thinking, and until they change their thinking, it's going to be just a continuing thing. So
So JC shot her hand up, and then Linda also has something to say.
okay.
I unfortunately have two things to say, and I keep forgetting that one. What were you saying, Michael?
Well, about boomers, you know, that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the shamanic community of which I am a part, I finished taking the classes, and the shaman said, okay, now we got some old people. We have to figure out what their role is, because you're right, there isn't a role for us acknowledged in our community. And so we began discussing that and figuring it out. And I finally came up that where in that particular group of elders, we are a resource. We have experience, we have stories, we have failure, we have success, we have watched things, and we came from a time when we birthed the community. The community is rip-roaring now. They don't need our pace, but they sometimes need what we might think about something, because the basics are still alive in us. So that's a thing, that a place where what's the role of the elder has been worked on and still is. Mainly though, we have to be sure that as they don't do any heavy lifting. You know, they don't have to lead stuff. They just have to be hanging around in case you want to know what they might think about something. So anyway, it's just interesting.
It is, and to discount people because they're of their age is a big mistake. I think a big mistake. Yeah, because you know, our experiences is what helps us learn about life.
Right.
And so a lot of our my niece, I used to tell her about, you know, watching out for this or this or this or this, and of course I knew nothing. And what's really interesting is those things had come to haunt her eventually. And so she's learning, well, maybe I do know a little something because I've had that experience. And she has to have her own experience, of course, and learn her own way and everything. But, well, I tell you, you know, if someone told me, don't touch the fire because it's going to burn your hand, I think I would listen. Some people, no, and they're going to stick their hand in the fire no matter who says what. But it's the people who've been there and done that can help us if we want to listen, you know. And boy, I admire them greatly, because yes, they have lived it, and they can help us. That's very important, you know, to help each other that way. So we don't have to put our hands in those fires all the time.
Linda, if you wanted to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. First off, I remember the first time I touched a pan on the stove. I was really little and I didn't know what hot meant.
Yeah.
And I learned in a hurry and I didn't burn myself. The next thing is about choosing to be happy. I figured out I could do that when I was taking care of my mother the last 6 months of her life. And I was in her room with her all around the clock, except when I was fixing her medications or, you know, rare trips to get cleaned up and use the bathroom. And there was one day when I just decided I was going to be happy for a short period of time. And I had someone else sit with her, and I took half an hour. I took a shower. I watched a tiny bit of TV, which I hadn't watched for ages. And that stuck with me, that I had a choice, that I can choose to be happy. Sometimes maybe it's for 5 minutes, but I can choose to be happy no matter where I am for at least a little while. And just knowing that helps a lot.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Thank you, Linda, for that. That's important to know that we have that power to be happy. And it doesn't mean, you know, for instance, like you, I too was with my mother for 2 weeks in her room as she was dying. And you can still be happy even in those kind of situations, because being happy allows you also to give a wonderful energy to them as they're going through this process. You know, that doesn't take away from your compassion. Happiness does not take away from your compassion. And I learned a lot going through that, probably similar experience like you've had. I found it an honor. In fact, I had asked God to let me be there with her when she passed. And so I was there for 2 weeks, and it was a great honor to just be with that process with her. And yeah, so thank you, Linda, for that.
If I could add on to that a little bit, I thank God every day that I was with my wife when she passed.
Yes.
Because that would have destroyed me. Yeah. Kim,
Yeah.
You want to say something, Kim? If you want to unmute yourself.
I was just going to say, I did the same thing with my husband. My brother had told me, stay with him the whole night, no matter what, because I wasn't wanting to go in there. It was too scary to see him just like that. So I did. And I'm glad I did after that.
But it's that transcendence of fear, right? For love, you know, for love of your husband, that you moved past that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it was just an important thing to make sure they knew I was there, that they were never alone. And for me also, it helped me with the closure part, because I was with it. And that's why I call it an honor. You know, it was an honor to be there with them as they were going through this. Yeah.
Well, unless there's any pressing thoughts or anything, I feel really good about this conversation. Yeah. Okay, Donna. Oh, wait. Oh, I see. Thumbs up. Okay. Donna, maybe you could just give us an outro, something to think about while we move on into the week.
Wow. Okay. Well, first I'd like to say I love this. I love this getting together, and because I really truly miss, and I know I've told you a million times, I miss the hugs. I miss the contact, and this, not ideal, but certainly we can see your face. You know, seeing your faces is wonderful. I just love that. So I appreciate this, and I'm glad that we're doing it. I'm very happy that we're doing this. And, you know, for me, this being resilient is an ongoing, everyday thing, especially being resilient in our thoughts. It's so easy to get caught up and all the negativity that's happening, all the negative reporting and everything. But for me to believe that this too shall pass is of great comfort to me. And I do a lot of things every day to build up my physical resilience, exercising and eating properly. And I think there's a key, because as I was saying in my Sunday message, we have to be prepared so that we can go through these things instead of being, hit by them and then try to struggle to come through it, So I think that's really important. So just believe in you, number one. Believe that you are an asset to this world when you are coming from a place of belief and power in, making this a better world. I do this in my spiritual practice every day. And it I have to say, it keeps reminding me every day, this is what's important. This is what's important. And so I ask you to think about it every day.
Wonderful. Well, we are blessed to have you, and equally blessed to have all the participants today. So thank you for joining us, everyone, and I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. Carol.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I love you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.